Yeah, you know how we've been warning you about the technocratic revolution for years now? Now you know why. And at least that thing can't handle recoil. For now. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Lukadowski here of WeAreChange.org. And man, oh man, do we have some crazy news to get into today, especially with the latest bombastic, crazy statements made by the president of Russia, who talked about the current world order being over, essentially ushering a new world order. This, as we have some surprising comments by the CIA about him. And it's not just tensions in Ukraine flaring up, as of course there's a lot of other important issues to talk about that we're going to be getting into in this specific video, highlighting all the important news happening today, especially in places like Sri Lanka. And yes, in the beginning of the video, you saw a robotic dog with a machine gun attached to him, or it, or he, them, I don't know what kind of pronouns the robot is going to be assigned by Boston Dynamics, but if things keep going this way, our pronouns are going to be was and were. This, as many Davos globalist types have been talking about, the fourth industrial revolution, a technocratic revolution of our society that, of course, they've been cheering on and applauding since, of course, it's going to give very few individuals godlike authority over everyone else. And when you look at artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and the larger technological advancements that is rapidly increasing, who is holding these new authorities that haven't been yet even legally rectified or even defined? Well, usually these new powers end up in the hands of unaccountable billionaires and their companies that are developing them right now. And in my opinion, it's best to be skeptical because a lot of these individuals don't have the best track record when it comes to, human rights and respecting other lives, as of course some organizations and institutions want to control every aspect of your existence. One of these public organizations and front groups is, of course, the World Economic Forum, where today we are finding out that one of their very proud members is now the new president of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, that just took office, and surprise, surprise, he is yet another corrupted, disgusting businessman who has stolen from his country, from his people, and now has come out publicly and promised to crack down on the protests that overthrew the previous government and the previous president and prime minister. This corrupted politician and World Economic Forum member said, quote, "If you try to topple the government, occupy the president's office and the prime minister's office, that is not democracy, it is against the law," even going as far as equating the protesters who are angry at their politicians being corrupted to the point that their people are starving were compared to Germans during the 1930s and 40s by, of course, the new president of Sri Lanka, that also, by the way, instituted a new national ID QR code system, a track, trace, and database surveillance system in order for people to be rationed gas. Yes, if you're a citizen in Sri Lanka and you want gas, you have to download an app which will be correlated with your national identification system and your national government ID number, and you will be allowed to have a little bit of gas. This, of course, will also be tied in with your vehicle identification number and most likely in the future your social credit score, as of course the government there is looking to control what people can and cannot buy, just like during communism, where governments usually ration food because their populations are starving because of centralized policies that always fail. So I think it's very fair to say with this new QR system, with the new president of Sri Lanka disparaging and attacking the protesters there that are sick of the corruption, that there's definitely going to be a new round of protests in that country, more civil unrest, and we have to ask ourselves, why did this happen to Sri Lanka? Well, we have to understand, Sri Lanka was the most vulnerable. It couldn't defend itself. It was indebted to the World Economic Forum, to the World Bank, to the IMF, and it had to repay those debts. And the way they decided to do that is by following the calls of these Davos globalists, doing everything that they wanted them to do. Sri Lanka had a very high ESG score. Sri Lanka did everything that they were told to do. The World Economic Forum even released an article talking about how they're going to be one of the richest, most prosperous nations in the world. And they deleted that as, of course, they had a collapse of society as their rapid green energy transition turned to a full societal, economic, and political collapse. This coming to the rest of the Western world, along with the QR codes, especially to Europe. Watch out for these same policies to be implemented there. This, as the next World Economic Forum members, is also expected to replace Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom, as now the two candidates running to replace him are literally members of this highly corrupted organization that, of course, prioritizes the needs of the billionaire class. Italy just had the collapse of their government. Their prime minister resigned. Their parliament is being disbanded, as people there are also upset about the Great Reset, food prices going up, and this green energy transition that the government there tries to implement, as we could definitely expect more instability in Europe to come. This, as here in the United States, the president of the United States just said he tested positive for a sickness that he took 4 procedures to make sure that he didn't get. Yes, he was quadrupled dosed with a treatment that clearly here hasn't helped him not get the sickness. This, as yesterday, he also announced to a stunned public that he has cancer, leaving many people stunned, being like, does he have cancer, or is this just another crazy statement that he made that he wasn't supposed to make? Is this an accidental statement? Is this a real statement? Who in the world knows? As of course, Dementia Joe, as he's described, here is perfectly represented on one of our t-shirts that we sell on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, saying, quote, "I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message." We released this shirt years ago, and it is becoming more relevant by the day. If you want yours, go to thebestpoliticalshirts.com down in the description below. But his political future doesn't look very promising, and it looks like he's definitely going to be getting an exit from the public spotlight because of health reasons very soon. This, as most Democratic voters don't want him to run again in 2024, and his approval rating is absolutely dismal at a low 31%. What's going to be the future of politics here in the United States? Well, probably a lot more instability, and we help you navigate that through, of course, original content that we make on LukeUncensored.com. If you haven't signed up yet, just click the link down in the description below. Check out what we offer you, as, of course, we have 3 masterclasses, exclusive merchandise, a forum, communicating, working together on future projects, future masterclasses, which are only available to members of LukeUncensored.com. Oh yeah, I have to do an AMA. I'm doing an AMA later on today, only on LukeUncensored.com on a forum. I asked you guys, hey, ask me whatever you guys want me to answer. We got 41 questions. Man, that's a lot of questions. I'm going to be answering all of them in today's video on LukeUncensored.com. Lots of very important questions, lots of great input, lots of people even helping ask the questions, especially when it comes to detoxing, lots of health stuff, personal responsibility stuff, lots of stuff related towards personal help and development, and we're going to be getting into all of that plus a lot more. So if you asked me a question, I'm going to be answering it in an exclusive video only for you on LukeUncensored.com. Future videos, by the way, will be live Q&A answer questions where you guys could probably call in or video message in, whatever it may be. All of that only available for members of LukeUncensored.com. See you there right after this video, as the next video will be available for you right after this one. Now, a couple of moments ago, Newsweek came out with a very eye-opening headline declaring that the president of Russia is warning that the Western world's current world order is over, and a new era is coming, a new world order, and in all senses of the way, there has been a lot of drastic changes to our social, political, and economic way of life. There are major transitions happening. There are major changes. There is a lot of instability. And when you look at Putin's comments here, even though you may disagree with his political and foreign policy moves, there is some merit to consider to some of the comments that he is making, especially as he describes a quote, the model of total domination that is coming in a new stage in world history, specifically describing Western rule right now as inherently racist and neo-colonial, describing the robbery of people both in Asia and in Africa. This as he was, of course, criticizing the Western sanctions put on his country and how his relations with countries like India, which he sees being robbed, have increased and strengthened throughout these last few months because of the sanctions, and how they are shifting geopolitically towards countries like China and Iran rather than, of course, the Western world, and that Russia dependence away from the West is, quote, forging a new alliance. This, as Vladimir Putin has just been holding meetings with the leadership of Iran and Turkey. Turkey, by the way, is also a member of NATO, and Putin even went as far as to say that global elites are now, quote, terribly afraid that other parts of the world may present their own options for development, and that high growth dynamics could be achieved by truly sovereign states. Now, whatever you may make of Putin's comments here, it's also important to note that his speech was pretty much centered about Russia and Russia's interests. This on the backdrop of the Western world trying to isolate Russia from the rest of the world, when that hasn't been the case. Russia has turned and bettered relations with a lot of other foes of the Western world. Russia cornering and exclusively working with India, which has been purchasing a lot of Russian energy. Partnering with Saudi Arabia, which also has been buying Russian energy and selling it back to the United States at a profit. When you look at the state of economy for Russia and the ruble, and you compare that to the euro and the dollar, this does signal some thought-provoking analysis, specifically on the backdrop of these comments, that I definitely think is worth considering at least, especially with the larger transitions to our society that have been ongoing. Now, it's also important to note here that Putin, of course, had a previous relationship with Davos, even gave a special address to them in 2021. Russia also did hacking war games called Cyber Polygon with the World Economic Forum not so long ago. But recently, of course, the World Economic Forum cut all ties and associations to Russia, signaling, of course, a transition. This, as I think it's also fair to say that the situation globally has been made a lot worse and a lot desperate by, of course, the conflict in Ukraine. This as today, the United States is weighing the options of sending fighter jets to Ukraine as the conflict there is only escalating and, according from our analysis, could last an extremely long time. And with this ever-so proxy conflict continuing and escalating, with even the CIA director just coming out recently and saying Putin looks like he's healthier than ever. Of course, contradicting all the previous other corporate media establishment reports saying that he was extremely sick, that he was going to die any moment, that he was going to be replaced any moment, and if he would be replaced, the guy in line to replace him, by the way, is a staunch war hawk that, of course, most likely would escalate the situation in Ukraine to very dangerous levels. But it's also very interestingly to see the CIA today counter a lot of their anonymous intelligence sources that just a few days ago, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, were telling you that Putin was deathly sick and ill. We, of course, didn't entertain a lot of these speculations because, again, there was no clear sources, there was no clear evidence. The CIA director now contradicting that is worth noting. This, as I think it's very fair to say that there are some major changes in the Western world that do not benefit the general public, that do not benefit the people living there, that definitely do worsen the social, economic, and political gains. This as these great reset transitions that are being proudly brought on by the Biden administration, the social division caused by big tech social media, the consequences of just printing money out of thin air, all have a cost to it. What's the right approach to dealing with all of this? Well, according to my own personal opinion and perspective and understanding, the complete opposite of what we're doing right now. And a lot of the core values of the Western world that used to proudly stand behind them, that used to proudly promote them, has changed very drastically, especially within the last few years. So this larger transition that Putin is talking about, especially with the poor, corrupted leadership, is at least worth considering from my perspective. What do you think? Who's right in this situation? Who will prevail? The West or the East and the developing countries that, of course, the West is standing against? Who will win in the long term? Let me know down in the comment section below, as of course I think it's fair to say that we're dealing with a clash of these two larger civilizations and these ideas that we should be discussing over all the other nonsense that's out there that's usually distracting us. That's my perspective. You appreciated it. Share this video with your friends and family members. It's truly one of the only few ways that these videos get out there to the general public. I don't care if it's a family member, a stranger, someone at the supermarket, you're at the garage, you're getting your car repaired, doesn't matter. Talk to the mechanic. Be like, hey, you deserve a different perspective of the world than what is regurgitated to you by the corporate billionaire banking monopolies out there that want you in a state of mind control hypnosis. That's why you should check out youtube.com/wearechange. Say it exactly like that. Just write it down. Hey, I forgot exactly what I said. You deserve to understand the world from a perspective that's not controlled by the corporate banking oligarchs, and that's why you should check out youtube.com. Say it like that. Just write it down. Say it to a random person down the street. It's fun. Break your routines. Break someone's paradigm. You could do it, and because you do, I'm still here. One more video coming your way right after this on LukeUncensored.com. Stay tuned for a lot more here on wearechange.org. Love ya.